We've seen a lot of cases where, sometimes there's some robbery cases and then the girl together with the bad guy being killed together by the police. And then when they interview the parents, who probably happen to be on a small town in Malaysia somewhere, they believe their child, my daughter very good one. How come now I believe the police shoot wrongly? My daughter is a good girl. But they do not know who their daughters or the son they are with. And sometimes they don't even know their in-laws also, in a sense, their son-in-law and daughters-in-law. Because today, parents, sometimes we take things too lightly. As long as they give some money to us, we're very happy. Occasionally, they come back from the big town and city. They bring us for a nice dinner. As parents, we're happy. Of course, your time has not come, some of you, but your time will come that this will happen. And you say, oh, okay, but my son, my so-called son-in-law is very good. We do not know where they're coming from. So, from the Buddhist perspective, part of our duty as parents, if our son or daughter do have a so-called future partner, it's important for you to take note and pay attention and get to know, if you can, what is he doing in his job, in his business, or whatever it is, so that you understand it better. And if need to, it's your duty to advise your son or your daughter that whether you have other opinions, what you think about that person. Because these days you cannot bulldoze your way through, but the least you can do is have to give your fatherly, motherly advice. That's what we need to do. But a lot of parents today don't do this anymore. I know a lot of parents in a smaller town, as long as their daughter bring back money every month, send back money every month, they're very happy. They think about the daughters and son are doing a good job. Not knowing the son is involved in some drugs here, some underground activities and whatever. They don't know. So it's important in that sense to take pain about it. And the Buddha says, at the proper time, hand over your inheritance. Now, this is a very tricky one. Because today we're dealing with Gen Ys, 30 years old and below. And most of the Gen Ys today are very old, or can say, old men. Why? Because you went through hardship, some of you, especially those who are like 20 over years old kids. You went through hardship. That time when you started your family and your career, you have almost nothing. You build up your family and your career, you accumulate wealth, you buy property here and there. So by this time, your children is 20 years old, 22 years old, whatever the age is, you would have more than one property, trust me. Most Malaysians, they have one house that they stay, but they have two houses that they invest for the future. And better still, some people say, this one belongs to my first son, this one for my second son, this one for my daughter. They all get it mapped up nicely. Agree? This is where the issue comes in. The young generation today, the will to work, the passion to work, unlike your generation and my generation. They can tomorrow walk out of the office and don't go back there. They can do that because why? We don't demand money from them anymore. So this is a tricky one because at which point in time, when we say we want to be a good Buddhist parents, do we pass over our inheritance to them? This is a very tricky question. In the good old days, it's very easy. The son will work with father, work until the father died. He basically continue the business. Whatever the father has, he inherits. It's a lot more easier, clean cut. Today is a bit more tricky because a lot of children today don't want to work, waiting for the father to die so that he gets a house, he gets a property, he gets a land, whatever it is. So again, we as Buddhist parents have to be very careful. While we say this is part of what we need to do, yes, some of you have saved enough for your children, but we could be spoiling them at the same time. So we have to be very careful about this. I have heard some younger children who say, I don't worry why my father say you got a house for me already. Young one, just early teenage say words like that. I don't have to worry, my father say you got a house somewhere in Dhamma for me already. Because you say so, ma. You tell this one, see, daddy buy this house, see, this is your house in the future. So in his mind, is no more will to work harder and to fight and to do whatever it is. We could be spoiling them. So sometimes when you buy houses for children, It's good to keep it a secret. Don't tell them yet. You know between the two of you, that's fine, but don't go and tell them too much. Some of these things is good to have some kind of reservation. So that they probably know my dad got some property, I don't know how many they have, I always don't know. Better that way, rather than you specifically say that's your house. Wow, they go around, they feel as if they don't need to work anymore. And I got how much in the bank, quarter will go to you, wow, they feel that they don't need to work anymore. So don't spoil your kids with that. But the Buddha gave this advice because the Buddha was very concerned about living happily, dying happily. There are many people who have a lot of properties and assets and things like that, but when they pass away, before they pass away, they struggle like that because the son and you know that the casino king in Macau, how many wives he has? Stanley, right? How many wives he has? Official and unofficial, you don't know. But even the official one, he has a few wives, and the wife had children, and even he wants to die at his age, at his condition, for example, at that. It's very difficult to die. Want to die, also very difficult to die because you worry, you know, this is not resolved, that is not solved. So the Buddha was very clear. The Buddha says, you have done your part when they were young, you've done the part when they grew up, you've done the part when they are ready to get married and do your part to make sure that. I think the other important thing is at the right time, if you think your kids are good enough, you give to them. But if you think they are not good enough, you need to go back. That's why some rich men, they got money at the end of the day, they never give to their children, they just donate to charity. There are one or two cases like that. Because they feel that their kids don't deserve that. So this is your right as a parent. So I want to move on here. So it's important for us as parents, I say, you know, avoid evil, do good. We know, we get them to observe the precepts. And in fact, when we ask children to observe the precept, it's the Buddhist way to teach the young to respect others. So when you tell them, you know, you take the precept not to kill, respect the right of others to live. So part of us as Buddhist parents, we need to do it. Don't just tell them, don't do this, don't do that. Tell them that when you observe the first precept, we also respecting others' right to live. They also got right to live. So that's why we don't, you know, harm them and kill them, whatever it is. So you teach them different things rather than just teaching them not to do this, not to do that. So respect others' right to own things. You have your own thing, and naturally you don't want to be taken away from you. At the same time, you should not take things away from them because they got the right to own their own things and enjoy their own. So we teach our children that way. Then we find that as Buddhist parents, we are not only telling them what to do and what not to do, but we are instilling values in them. That's a very important part of being a good Buddhist parent. That's all you can give them actually. When I close my eyes eventually, you know, even though I don't have much property, let's say, but I know I ground them with good values. That good values will help them to survive better. Some of you survive better in your life because you got good values from your parents or from the families that you came from. Okay, again, if you have teenage kids, in the Sigalovada Sutta, of course, it was mentioned about this to how people can lose their wealth. But in the same way, the Buddha also asked us to refrain from 6 ways of not being productive. Not only not productive, whatever you have, you get will go away. If you have wealth will go away. So these are the things that, of course, as adults we should avoid also. But for children, these days, as good parents, we must try to make sure that, for example, indulgence in intoxicants. These days, there are more and more bistro, not only bistro is alright, you got geography, which doesn't teach geography. You got a library which don't have books, you know. What on earth are all these things? There are places for you to go and drink and things like that. So you got issues like that, you know. So we have to, of course, we can't stop our children from going out and have their free time, but from time to time you find that they've been indulging in this. It's important for you as a parent to play the role and coach them sauntering the streets at night. If our kids, even for myself, if my kids come back late, I'm worried for them. Because these days, anytime after 10:30 or 11, the streets is like a racetrack. You see some cars just drive very quickly and they don't care. And it's so dangerous if your kids are still wandering in the street at 11, 12, 1 o'clock. Because anything can happen these days. And if they are driving a car, somebody can just bang the car, pretend to be an accident, and then she'll get robbed, she'll get raped, she'll get anything. So, again, as parents, the Buddha has clearly said that these are the things that is not good for adults, but same thing for growing the young adults. Sauntering the street at night, frequenting theoretical show here means to indulge in a lot of entertainment. Theoretical show in those days, of course, they only have proper show, but in our time, all kinds of entertainment we can have. Okay? Which could include karaoke all night long also. You can. So, frequenting theoretical shows, indulging in gamblings, associate with evil companions, who your sons and daughter mix with is very important. So, sometimes what we do is we ask our, instead, they want to go to a friend's place, we ask them to bring the friend over to our place, so that at least we know who are the friends and things like that.